On the morning of November 7, 2000, beneath the vast white canopy of London's Millennium Dome, a gang of determined criminals prepared to carry out what they believed would be one of the most daring diamond heists in British history. The Millennium Dome, now known as the O2 Arena, had been built to celebrate the arrival of the new millennium, a bold architectural statement rising along the River Thames in Greenwich. Inside the dome that day, among its exhibitions and attractions, sat a treasure that captured global attention, the Millennium Star diamond. Weighing 203.04 carats, flawless and pear-shaped, it was one of the most valuable diamonds in the world, displayed as the centerpiece of a De Beers exhibition and surrounded by other rare blue diamonds worth hundreds of millions of pounds. To the public, it was a dazzling spectacle. To a small group of criminals from South London, it was an irresistible target. The gang was not made up of reckless amateurs chasing fantasy. These were experienced men who had studied security systems, analyzed response times, and carefully observed the routines around the dome. They believed that despite cameras, guards, and reinforced cases, they had identified weaknesses. Their plan was aggressive, fast, and designed to overwhelm any resistance. They would crash a stolen JCB digger through the perimeter fence of the Millennium Dome, storm into the exhibition area armed with sledgehammers and nail guns, smash the diamond's display case, grab the stones within minutes, and escape via a high-powered speedboat waiting on the River Thames. It was a plan that sounded like something from a Hollywood script, a smash-and-grab operation calculated to last only moments before disappearing down the waterway. They were convinced that speed and shock would guarantee success. What the gang did not realize was that their plan had already been exposed. Months before the attempted raid, intelligence had reached the Metropolitan Police suggesting that a major robbery was being organized. Surveillance operations began quietly and methodically. Detectives monitored movements, gathered evidence, and pieced together the gang's intentions. Undercover officers infiltrated the group, learning details about their equipment, their escape routes, and even the timing of their attack. Phones were monitored, meetings were observed, and the police allowed the conspiracy to continue developing under controlled conditions. Rather than arresting the suspects early, authorities made a strategic decision. They would catch them in the act, ensuring overwhelming evidence and minimizing the risk of escape. Inside the dome, additional security measures were installed discreetly. The diamond's display case, already strong, was secretly reinforced with advanced ballistic-resistant glass capable of withstanding heavy blows. Armed officers were positioned nearby, concealed, and ready to respond within seconds. Marine police units prepared along the Thames, anticipating the planned river escape. The criminals believed they were perfecting a masterstroke. In truth, they were walking into one of the most carefully orchestrated police stings in modern British history. As the morning unfolded, the plan was set in motion. A stolen JCB digger roared toward the perimeter of the Millennium Dome site and smashed through the fence with violent force. Metal twisted and barriers collapsed as the machine carved a path inward. Onlookers were stunned as masked men leapt from the vehicle carrying sledgehammers and nail guns. Smoke bombs were ignited to create confusion and panic. The gang rushed toward the De Beers diamond exhibition, adrenaline surging as they moved according to rehearsed positions. Everything seemed to be happening exactly as planned. Visitors screamed and scrambled for safety, while the masked men reached the display case containing the Millennium Star. One of the robbers swung his sledgehammer with full force against the glass. The blow echoed across the exhibition hall. He struck again and again, expecting the case to shatter under the assault, but it did not break. The reinforced glass absorbed the impact, resisting the heavy strikes. Confusion flickered across the attackers' faces as precious seconds slipped away. They had calculated for resistance, but not for a case strengthened specifically to defeat their tools. The illusion of control began to unravel. Within moments, armed officers from the Metropolitan Police moved in. They had been waiting nearby, monitoring every movement through surveillance feeds and direct observation. The intervention was swift and overwhelming. The robbers, still attempting to smash the unyielding glass, suddenly found themselves surrounded by firearms officers issuing clear commands. There was no dramatic exchange of gunfire, no prolonged standoff. The element of surprise had shifted entirely. The gang members were arrested on the spot, their elaborate plan collapsing in a matter of seconds. Outside, the speedboat intended for their escape waited in vain. It had been positioned along the River Thames as the final piece of the operation, ready to whisk the thieves away at high speed, bypassing roads and police checkpoints. But marine units had already secured the river, anticipating exactly this scenario. The escape route had been neutralized before the first swing of the hammer struck the glass. The cinematic getaway the gang envisioned never materialized. The entire attempted robbery lasted only minutes. What had been conceived as one of the most bold diamond heists in history instead became one of the most remarkable examples of strategic policing. In the aftermath, the suspects were charged with conspiracy to rob, and during the trial, the full scale of the investigation was revealed. Surveillance footage, recordings, and months of intelligence gathering demonstrated how thoroughly the plot had been monitored. The court heard how police deliberately allowed the plan to proceed under controlled conditions to ensure definitive evidence and minimize the risk of escape. The gang members were ultimately convicted and sentenced to lengthy prison terms. The Millennium Star diamond was never stolen, never damaged, and never even removed from its case. The reinforced glass had done its job, and the meticulous planning by law enforcement had ensured that no lives were lost in the confrontation. The attempted robbery became legendary not because of its success, but because of its audacity and its spectacular failure. Over time, the Millennium Dome transformed into what the world now recognizes as the O2 Arena, hosting concerts, sporting events, and global entertainment spectacles. Thousands pass through its entrances every day, unaware that within those walls a dramatic confrontation once unfolded between ambition and strategy, between criminal daring and patient surveillance. The story of the Millennium Dome raid attempt stands as a reminder that even the most carefully crafted plans can be undone when every move is being watched. The robbers believed they were on the brink of rewriting history with a flawless escape down the Thames, diamonds in hand. Instead, they became a case study in how calculated law enforcement can dismantle even the boldest schemes. And somewhere far from the chaos of that November morning, the Millennium Star continues to shine, its brilliance forever linked to the day it almost became the prize of a crime that was never allowed to succeed.